Classic news, Mark Durrant has turned the other cheek, and he has forgiven me for my question about how many points he averaged his senior season, and he is back with us. Mark, I am so sorry that I hurt your feelings.
Well, yeah, you've destroyed the facade that I've tried to put up over the years that I was actually a good player, so thanks for that.
I'm so sorry. If you can look the other way and answer today's Twitter question, we'd be very appreciative, and that is, after the loss at Gonzaga on Saturday for BYU basketball, now what? Where does your focus as an analyst go?
Yeah, well, I guess I just want them to get better, and you're talking about scenarios and winning games. I would like to see more consistent effort, especially when you go on the road to teams like LMU and Portland and Pepperdine, where you don't have that excitement of the Gonzaga fans and the whole setting there. It's easy to get up for those games and really play hard because it's so intense and the atmosphere is so electric. But going to Pepperdine in that small gym with a few fans, I mean, you got to kind of artificially manufacture that intensity, and it's not easy to do. And a lot of teams fall prey to that. But BYU's got to be more consistent in coming out, even against the lesser teams, because they're not good enough to just beat anybody. They got to earn it, and so you got to come out and really give some effort. So I'm worried about the road games. I'd like to see some improvement in the type of effort and go and win the games you're supposed to win. We talk about that a lot, but beat Pepperdine and beat San Diego. That's going to be really tough. San Diego's good, and going on the road there, that'll be tough. And Portland, they've got some decent players, and so BYU can't take anyone for granted. I'd like to see them have a little bit better consistent effort and really get after it, play with some urgency and with some pride really on the road. I mean, that was very disappointing against LMU, and I think the contrast between Thursday and Saturday really proves my point on being ready to go and playing with energy and intensity and urgency. So I'd like to see that. I don't know that they'll win all the games finishing out, but I'd just like to see them get better so they're in a position when it really matters in the conference tournament to be at their best and playing confident and doing the right things. And I think that Saturday Gonzaga game, yeah, they lost it, but I came away feeling pretty good because I saw what I wanted to see, and I just want to see more of that so that they can get in the best position possible at the end of the year.
BYU is 7-5 in West Coast Conference play, which is pretty gnarly. One game above 500. I think we feel like this team's better, but is it just because the margin of loss is lower? Yeah,
I think that's part of it. I mean, you run the scenarios, well, man, if we could have hit that last-second shot at St. Mary's and then the last-second shot at Pacific, and maybe if we could have got a couple bounces up at Gonzaga, it would be a totally different story. Obviously, that LMU game was an outlier. That was extremely disappointing, but I think otherwise BYU has been in most games that they've played, and they've competed, and I think the defense has been better, and it just kind of looks better on the eye the way that they're taking care of the ball. Again, you got to take the LMU game out of your mind to make these points seem valid, but we're just going to forget about that game. But otherwise, I mean, BYU has really competed and looked good, and so I think there's reason to think this team is better than they have been, notwithstanding the record. But in lies the frustration, right, guys? I mean, you kind of feel it in your bones watching, but the results are the same, and that's very frustrating. But my hope is that in the long run, those things are going to pay off, and even though the things are the same now as they have been in past years, maybe this year can be different in that BYU can win the tournament or do something special at the end of the year to make it really feel like you've done something and accomplished something, and that you are better and that the future is brighter. And that's the blue-eyed, the blue-goggled optimist in me that's what I want to happen. We'll see if it pans out, but I do believe that the BYU is making the right steps, and this is a stepping stone year. And that's not to say I don't want them to win the tournament this year and go to the NCAA tournament this year. I want all that for this team, but I also want a long-term, big picture thing. I want to know that the program is doing the right things, going the right direction, and I feel pretty confident that they are.
Longtime BYU basketball analyst Mark Durrant with us on BYU Sports Nation. Mark, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that BYU shot 3 for 20 from the three-point line. Elijah Bryant was 1 for 11. Yoli Childs scored 14 points, and the Cougars were within one possession with under 3 minutes to play. How do you explain that?
Yeah, that's the thing that eats at you. I mean, you think, man, get a call here or there. Even if you shoot a poor three-point number in that game, that's what, 6 for 20? That's not a great number either.
Yeah.
And that's 3 more threes. So you're shooting a subpar number still at 6 for 20, but you win the game. And so that's hard to take. And they were terrible at LMU as well. I mean, if you're turning the ball over and shooting poorly from the three-point line, you're just not going to win. But you're right. The fact that they're in that game, notwithstanding that, just goes to show you how hard they played, and they did a lot of good things. But got to have guys knocking down three-point shots. I mean, it's almost impossible to expect to go to a ranked team on the road and shoot that number and have any hope. And so that's frustrating. I mean, TJ's the only guy that I think hit a three. And Elijah Bryant's been shooting 45%. I mean, that's crazy that he couldn't hit any shots, and a lot of them were in and out. And clearly, he was not quite right. I mean, that's obvious. That's such a crazy number for him with what he's done this year. But it just makes it, again, it's just kind of like the whole year. Like, boy, we're right there, but something always goes wrong. And you hope they can find a way to kind of get it all together and have everything working together at the right time, because it's frustrating when you do so many good things but kind of shoot yourself in the foot.
Mark, BYU is hoping to win 3 in Vegas and win the tournament. BYU, amazingly, for as good as BYU's been at basketball, they haven't won a conference championship since 2001. Steve Cleveland feels like this team is better equipped to win that tournament. Yet there stands 2 top 15 teams in the way. Do you feel like this team is better equipped to compete and potentially win this tournament than maybe the last couple of years?
Well, far be it from a guy that got 6 points a game to question Steve Cleveland. And so I agree with Steve. I really do. I mean, Gonzaga, as good as they are, they don't have kind of that superstar big guy that they normally have, and they're not a great three-point shooting team. They don't have the Pangos or the Williams Gosses or whoever that they've had. They're still really good and have great depth and great athleticism, but I think they're more vulnerable this year, notwithstanding BYU lost up there. But I think they're certainly gettable. St. Mary's beat them up there, and St. Mary's obviously is a tough matchup with Landale. But in my heart, I think especially after last year, BYU got drilled by St. Mary's a couple times. I think BYU certainly will have a chance in that game. They'll be in the game, and St. Mary's is not going to dominate them. So, yeah, absolutely. I think it's more of an opportunity. Mormon's just, Vegas isn't really their town, and but I think the Mormons are going to roll the dice this year, and hopefully they come away with some good things.
Follow him at Durrant Mark on the Twitter machine. Mark, we'll leave with this: how many guys shot 53% or better and 70% from the free throw line in a season for BYU? That's pretty good, man.
You're just trying to make up for the initial question, but I appreciate that. Listen, I was the consummate role player. I wanted to get in your face defensively like you do in ward ball, Spencer, and that was my deal. And I'll leave the scoring to Devin and Kevin on the Durrant name. I just wanted to D somebody up.
Great stuff, Mark. We appreciate the time. Look forward to doing it again soon.
Hey, thanks, fellas. See ya.
Mark Durrant on the